Hi friends, this is Jess with Virtually Visual, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back. And today I'm going to be showing you a quick breakdown on how you can make your own Redshift materials where the attributes are available to edit right here in the attributes panel, so you don't have to dive into the node editor every time you want to change one little thing. I do this all the time for any materials that I'm creating to give away. Like I just released a sponge material shader, and it is totally procedural in that I made 6 different types of sponge surfaces, and you can just pick which one you want right in the attributes panel. Same with the color, the subsurface, and the displacement, all right within this side area instead of having to dive into the node editor. So I'm gonna just show you how you can do that yourself. We'll make an interesting material, and just to start, I've just got a backdrop, a sphere, and then we've got the HDRI. It's just a sunny one. It's got blue sky in the background. I'll show you, it's this one. So I love that one, highly recommend. And then we just got our camera, and it's set to a 120 for the focal length. So that's just a really easy peasy setup. Let's slap a material on here. I'm gonna go create a standard material, and we're gonna put that on our sphere, and we're gonna get our IPR going. And I'm just gonna call this wavy material, just to be fun. Now, we do need to dive into the actual node editor. I do want to preface that. It's not like we won't be going in here at all, but once we get everything set up, you won't need to dive in unless you want to add more to it. So, thought here, I want to have 3 different wavy image textures that I can flip through when creating this. Let's just say this is a wavy material shader that we want to have options for. First thing, you're gonna need a shader switch, and then we want to pull in our images that we're going to be using here. So I'm going to personally just drag in some images that I have made in Midjourney. So these are all images that I've made in Midjourney. I highly recommend doing this. Making your own seamless textures with AI is a great way to make unique options that are seamless. And you can just have it in black and white, so you've already got a height map. So I made my foam textures this way. But I'm gonna do these like fingerprint wavy lines here. I think that could be interesting. And then I'm gonna kind of organize these, and we'll name them. So now we're gonna plug this in. If you drag the line over and just hover and let go, you can pick which input you want. 0 is the first one, 1, and then 2 for these 3 materials. So what this means is when we plug this in eventually to what we'll be able to make it show up in the right over here, people can just go through 1 or 2, or 0, 1, and 2, and they'll be able to flip through these images. You can see it changing here. So that is what will drive our color eventually, or our actual image. So next step, we need a group node. The group node is what essentially enables you to create all these inputs that people can edit in the panel. But there's a specific step you have to take to make it editable on the right. So first things first, I know that this option here, these are numbers, so we're gonna need an actual value going in there that will change this. It's kind of hard to explain, but if we want something to power that, to make it change, it needs to be some kind of value. It can't be like a type or a checkbox or whatever. It has to be a number, obviously. So what we need to do is you double click on the group node, and I know we need some kind of math number. I like to go with value. And then you're gonna drag this input section out and let go and hit add new input. And you're gonna do the same for the result, add new output, and rename these just so you know what it is. I'm going to be using this for shader selector. And then click back out of that from the group, and you now have these inputs showing up, which is what we needed. So again, we know we need a value plugged into the shader selector, and we created our shader selector value, which is inside the group. So we can just drag this over to our shader, go to inputs, shader selector. So now that is powering which one we want to use. But how do we get this actually in the attributes panel like the normal Redshift base properties are here. What you do is you click on the group node and you go node, start node. And this makes it so that no matter what, when you click on this material, this is the node we're looking at first. And because of that, we have the shader selector option here now showing up. And that's really the gist of it. So now we just need to, we can plug this into our color and you'll see it's already showing up. So let me just shrink this. So now we've got our little wavy material and we're on the first one, second one, third one. Easy as that, really. That's really the gist of the whole thing. But I'm gonna show you a few more tricks so that you're not just limited to this, because you might be thinking, okay, well yeah, I've got these black and white, but I want colors. And if you want to do a solid color, you could just plug this into a color node and then plug it into color. But I like to make things a little bit more customizable, so we're going to use a ramp. So what I want to do first is we're gonna pull in a ramp inside the group node. We got this going. Then I'm gonna right click over here and click add new input, and I'm gonna drag this over our ramp. We're gonna go down to ramp and hit ramp again. Okay, now we can pull this to output and add a new output, and this we'll just call ramp. You can't change the name on this side for the ramp stuff. I think it's just, I don't really know how to, like, why that is, but for all we need to worry about is just this ramp output name to make things easier. So then go back to the wavy material and you're actually going to pull this out color into the group node and add new input. Then let's go in and rename this. We're going to call this our image selector. And this we're going to go into our ramp and alt input. This process is really just like if we were putting a ramp in front of a regular image and you would drag the node and put it into alt input. But we're doing that with this and feeding this into the group because we want the shader to still be working. We want the switch to still be happening, but we want it to be going and then going through a ramp. And you can't just plug this. If we plugged this into a ramp, just out here, if we just put a ramp out here in the middle of these two, you wouldn't be able to change that then on the side. But because we have it in the group node, you can see it's already showing up here. But we need to make sure that we plug the ramp now into color. So, a little breakdown of what we got going on, because these lines are a little intense. We've got 3 image textures showing up in our shader switch, and this is where we pick between different images, which are the 3 we've chosen. And we have a math value plugged into the actual selector. And this is user editable, so that depending on which number we pick, it changes the image. Then we have this whole node being plugged back into the group, and it's going through a ramp, which is then going back into color. So that is feeding the switching images into a ramp, which is user editable because it's in this group. And then that is being plugged into the overall color. So now we have the ability to color these images. So let's test it out. You can click load preset now in this ramp and pick whatever you want. And as you can see, I mean, these images are black and white, so let's try, I mean, it's working, but it's hard to tell a little bit. We could add another value in here maybe and see if it does anything. Kind of hard to tell, but it's doing something. But yeah, so that's working. But the other nice thing, so we've got the image shader going on. We can repurpose this shader as our bump and displacement because they're black and white. So let's add displacement. Plug that in. And let's add a bump. Plug that in. And then we just need to feed the switcher into those. And obviously make sure we go and add a Redshift object tag, enable override geometry and tessellation, and then displacement. So it's a pretty high value right now, but you can see that it's working. And let's see, as we know, the group node is the user editables. So just because we click on this material, we can now edit all of these things. So you can choose whatever images you want in your shader. I just chose these wavy ones for this example. But yeah, then, you know, this is essentially how I build any of my material shaders that I want to share with anybody else. Some other tips: you can add value nodes in here that you can then plug into image scales. So you would go down and you would plug it into this. You can right click on these values, by the way. Actually, it's on the little circles. You want to right click on the circles and show in node editor, and then they will show up here on the node so you can plug stuff into it. So a lot of times scale is one I like to give people the option to edit, and same with amounts. So like if I have subsurface going on, you could plug a number into scale as well to control how much you want the depth of subsurface to be, or even the weight. So really the options here are pretty limitless. You can get really creative. The trickiest parts is always just with this group node, figuring out how to display what you want. The ramp was a really tricky workaround that I learned kind of playing around and doing stuff on my own. But yeah, just have fun with it. You can really get creative. We could even add another value here for the scale of our images. Let's do that now. Okay, image scale. So we're gonna plug this into the scale of our images, as we've said, which you can find when you hover over it at UV remap and then scale. And now that's also gonna show up here. So obviously at 0, we're not getting anything. So let's try 2 or 3 maybe. See what we get. Oh yeah, and if like you want, if the displacement's too much, you can obviously go in and change these, or you could add another value to control these. But for the time's sake, I'm just gonna do it here. I'll just do 0.2 and 0.2. So that looks pretty cool. You could even use this as a kind of mask, the shader switch, if we wanted to blend two materials. So yeah, I'm just gonna mess around with this some more and I'll speed it up and then I'll talk to you when that's done. So I really didn't change that much, but as you probably saw, I added another option to add a base color in the group node. So now that's editable, and we're just using a material blender to blend the two, and the shader is being plugged in as the map that's blending between the two. So really not that complicated, but really fun. I think you get a lot of great options with this, obviously. Super unique, and it's just nice to be able to build your own stuff and then play around with it. Really just like get crazy and try a bunch of different variations. So yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you can utilize this and make your own materials. I hope this was helpful. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.